Good evening, everybody. I'm going to call this April 10th, 2023 regular meeting of the City of Coolidge City Council to order and ask that you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Norma, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Mayor. Councilmember Tom Bagnall. Present. Councilmember Adri Saavedra.
Present.
Councilmember Steve Hudson.
Here.
Mayor John Thompson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jackie Henry.
Here.
Councilmember Tatiana Murrieta.
Here.
And Councilmember Eric Daniels.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you, Norma. Under presentations, we have a proclamation for National Library Week 2023. National Library Week is the week of April 23rd to April 29th, 2023. As everybody is well aware, we have an excellent library here. I will read the proclamation and we'll move on. Whereas libraries provide the opportunity for everyone to pursue their passions and engage in lifelong learning, allowing them to live their best life. Whereas libraries have long served as trusted institutions for all members of the community, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status. Whereas libraries strive to develop and maintain programs and collections that are as diverse as the populations they serve and ensure equity of access for all. Whereas libraries adapt to the ever-changing needs of their communities, continually expanding their collections, services, and partnerships. Whereas libraries play a critical role in the economic vitality of communities by providing internet and technology access, literacy skills, and support for job seekers, small businesses, and entrepreneurs. Whereas libraries are accessible and inclusive places that promote a sense of local connection, advancing understanding, civic engagement, and shared community goals. Whereas libraries are cornerstones of democracy, promoting the free exchange of information and ideas for all. Whereas libraries, librarians, and library workers are joining library supporters and advocates across the nation to celebrate National Library Week. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, John Thompson, Mayor of the City of Coolidge, proclaim National Library Week, April 23rd through 29th, 2023. During this week, I encourage all residents to connect with their library by visiting online or in person to access resources and services. Okay, we'll move into call of the public. This is the time of the meeting where if you want to address the council, we'll ask you to step up to the podium and state your name and your address. You'll have up to 3 minutes to address us. If you want to, Norma, is there anybody that signed up?
Mayor, we do have one that has signed up so far, but that's to speak on item number 9 through 11.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and have them wait until that time. Okay, we'll move into approval of minutes, city council study, we'll move out of call of public. Move into approval of city council study session, item February 13th, 2023. Item 5, city council regular meeting, March 13th, 2023. Item 6, city council study session, March 27th, 2023. Item 7, City Council regular meeting, March 27th, 2023. Are there any comments, corrections, anything that we need to do to change any of these minutes? Or if not so, I need a motion to act.
Mayor, if there's no further discussion, I make a motion we approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. We'll move into public hearings. Under item number 8, to receive public comments on amending the Landmark Ranch Planned Area Development consisting of approximately 319 acres, more or less, located at the southeast corner of West Martin Road and Skousen Road, Coolidge, Arizona. Okay, this is a public hearing, and they wanted to speak on items 9 through 10 or 11, 9 through 11, right?
Mayor, we do have a request to speak under item number 9 and just received another one to speak under number 8.
Okay, well, then I'll go ahead and start off.
Mayor Thompson, Vice Mayor Henry, council members, this is a public hearing for a project that's called Hawk Hollow. It's made up of 319 acres of land, and this is a PAD amendment. So we'll still have a site plan that comes up before the Planning and Zoning Commission. This is strictly for the amendment of the PAD to allow this type of units. It includes about 1,123 village homes. They're high-end manufactured houses. And they have a presentation, so we have representatives of Sun Communities, Langley Holdings, and Atwell Group here that they'll make a presentation. Quickly, this is this kind of just give you an overall idea. This is Martin Road up here. This is Skousen on this side. It's about a half section. This portion stays out of it. It's commercial, and it's staying with the landowner, Langley, and they're going to keep that part of it. And this looks like a subdivision, but it's actually under one ownership. We'll let them explain how it's run and all that. So we wanted to show you that. This just gives you an idea of the elevations that they're proposing, and we wanted you to look at those. These are not ground set units but they have to have the same type of siding all the way down. They have the porches, some have garages, some have carports, and they can explain the percentage of units that'll have some sort of attachment to them. Okay, go back. Okay, yeah. So that's all I have to show you right now, and so they can present if you'd like, Mayor, before you open it up to the public.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let the member public, there's only one, Norma?
2 now.
2 now?
Yes, Mayor.
So we have a general idea of what it is. I'm going to let them speak, and then we'll go into the presentation.
Okay.
So,
Okay, Mayor, our first speaker is Angela Bowman. Angela Bowman.
Good evening. Okay, I'm moving, thank you.
Angela, could we have your address too, please?
1739 West Pima Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
So my name is Angela Bowman. I currently attend Cornerstone Community Church, which is on Martin Road. So we just had some concerns that we were wanting to, some things to address to make sure as far as the safety that goes on up and down that road. The first one being the speed limit. Now, we all know it's 50 through there, but however, we know that's not what everybody drives. So we were wondering, if there was going to be anything that had to do with the speed limit either being reduced or even maybe widening the road or adding a turning lane for safety reasons. And then also how, on the other side, I know this is across the street, basically where our church is. So on the other side of the street where we are, we're trying to figure out like the zoning and how this is going to be zoned and what is going to be, county line considered Coolidge. How is that going to take place as far as all of that? And then anything else? But yeah, basically the speed limit concern, the turning lanes, if we do, with the traffic being really heavy on that road already. So with the housing development coming up, I'm sure that's going to increase in the traffic. And then if we could, I guess, see about turning lanes to turn in to make sure it's safer or however. But yeah, that's basically what our concerns are.
Thank you, Angela. What will happen is these gentlemen will give a presentation, and what they don't cover, either Gilbert or Phil from our department will get back to you and talk to you. The speed limit, the police chief might be able to address that, but if it gets to be a problem, they will probably come back. He'll probably come back in front of us, and I don't imagine he'll raise it. He probably want to lower it.
Right.
So
What warrants as a problem, like accidents, or what has to happen?
Well,
to-
to lower the speed limit, it just has to come,
Oh, okay.
it's in the city limits. So,
Okay.
yeah,
All righty, thank you.
thank you.
Yes. Mayor, our next speaker is May Watley Jones. May?
Mr. Jones?
Mr. Jones? May? Okay.
Does he need to fill something out?
I'm Mae Watley Jones, and we have property
Now we
on
have
the
Diane.
north side where this will be built. And our concern, me and my brother, Brady Watley, we are concerned about, when you say rezoning, what part are you rezoning? Is this part, our part on the north side, will it be affected, or it has nothing to do with the south side, where all this is going to take place and be built?
I didn't see anything in there that would rezone your side. I think you're going to remain the same. You're in the county. So we can't rezone anything in the county. The county would have to have a hearing and do what their process is, but we can't do anything with the county property.
Okay, well, anyway, my brother has another, I'll let him get up and finish the part that he want to talk. That's all I'm.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Jones, you can come up. Oh, Watley. Grady? Grady Watley?
Okay, I'm Grady Watley Sr. I'm a retired pastor. I once pastored the church that they are a member of some years ago, and I grew up in that church, and it was First Baptist Church, and I went to Colorado and I started preaching. And in June 13th, 1962, and I retired from pastoring about 10 years ago, but I still preach. I've been preaching 60 years, but I live there at 930 on our home property. And we have our parents left 3 acres there for us. We had a half-acre piece. There was 6 of us, but 3 of them dead, and so. But I live there, and so I'm concerned about how the change has come. I remember standing out on that dirt road, which is Martin Road, in 1947. When my dad drove a stake axle in the ground to separate our property, and on the west end, and on the north end, they have moved the stake for that, and so they could put a water line for the people on the end. And then come the gas company, the other contractors come through my fence in the back end and put a gas line on there. And I contacted them about it, and I even called the sheriff. But the sheriff wouldn't come out because I wanted a report from the law enforcement because they didn't get permission to take down my fence and put that line. And then when I was not at home, they drove through my yard in the back. It's good I wasn't home, because I wouldn't put up with that. And they one of the things that they bothered, they tried to change my address from West Martin Road to 930 East Martin Road. I never heard no mess like that before. We've been west of Coolidge since 1947. Now, how did I come up with living on the east side of Coolidge? And so I got my address from the county. As far as I know, I'm still in the county. But a lot of that stuff come from places and different for city and they have East Martin Road when Skousen Road, I'm only about a half a block from Skousen Road. If Skousen Road is west, how did we get east? And so, but strange things like that happen, and they take down markers and try to pretend that before I put up a block fence right on the west side of my property was they said that was an alley, and then they changed it to a street name. I believe it was Arkansas. I said, if it was a street there, it wouldn't be no Arkansas. It'd be Watley, because that's our property. But you know, they kind of like people shoot first and ask questions later. But we've been there, and if they're going to build something on the east side, south side, don't dig up all of the lines and stuff on the north side of the road, because when the gas company come through, I got a block fence on the south side, and it runs down the west side, but water leaks from the city, and it just soaked the bottom of the bridge. And then when the gas company come, I had the Mr. Honey to put me a bank up against the block, and it was about 6 or 8 inches higher than the bar pit. Well, the gas come through there. They plowed all that up and made mud holes and everything in front. And then to the east of there, or the east of where my mailbox is, it's a low spot there, and it holds water. So I tried to get them, since they dug it up, the gas company and the water company, to fill that in, to haul some dirt in there, and make a decent place for a curb side, because the water company drives through there, and the mail carrier drives through there, and everybody else drives through the side. And so we've had trouble out there ever since we've been there. When up until the last 2 years, I've planted trees out in the front there, and that Bechtel's company, the company that sprays the cotton and everything, a defoliant, he sprayed my trees too. I've had 5 or 6 trees that cost pretty money and a lot of time, and when they spray that, it kills the leaves and the trees and the bark and everything else on that defoliant. But it's problem. It's nothing you can do about it. I went to his house, and he said, "Well, I'll pay you for the trees." and that was 10 years ago. I ain't got a dime yet. This is the kind of thing that happen. People do things and don't take no responsibility for it. Now the gas company, they have a gas line running in the north that desert part over there, and it runs across the whole property. It was 40 acres and 20 acres by the Wilsons in the early 40s and the 50s, and they run a gas line that they covered because they had one of those big pumps pump water, and then it went on across. But what the gas company did on the end of our property is some trailers there, some mobile homes. Okay, and what they did is run a line through my property on the end. And instead of that, they said the north side of the people that live there, it's supposed to be a road because if they travel through there, well, why they come take down my fence and dig a line on the end of my property for the people on that end that's not a part of our property, and the water company did the same thing, and so what I'm concerned about is people they get away with an inch and then they'll take a mile. And then you go to the county or the city to call them to get something done. These people is on the wrong end, but they ain't gonna do nothing. Another thing, we are poor people. And we are striving. I'm disability, Social Security, and any other kind of thing that they have out there. But through the years, I've on the where they're talking about the land on the end over there. I used to pick cotton out there. We pick cotton out there to buy school books and shoes and clothes. Some years ago, after we got out of school and the bus let us off, we changed clothes and go to work out there. But I'm kind of glad that they didn't plant any more cotton, because when they defoliate, here come all them old hairy worms over on the place. You can't stop them. And but other than that, they don't keep no promise, and I'm concerned about that. As long as we on the county side, then don't mess up the county side to assist the city part. And so, because neither one of them will take care of their part of the side of the road. Neither one of them. And so I think we've been out there the longest, the Watley's. And it was a Fraser property years ago, but all that's gone now, and it's a lot different. So I'm still preaching, and I'll be preaching, I guess, till the Lord says so. But I'm not worried about that part of my life. I've struggled. People make more money in 1 hour than we did working 6 days a week, 10 hours a day.
Reverend Watley.
More than one time, and so I can say this.
Reverend, if I might, I think we get the gist of what you're saying. From the city standpoint, we'll take care of our side of the road. And that gentleman sitting right there with the tie, if you have any problems at all with what the county's doing, you can call Mr. Lopez. He'll give you a card, and he will call the county, and he will talk to them on your behalf.
Okay, well, I appreciate it.
And if he doesn't, you can come back here and see us.
Yeah, said I can say this. I'm 86 years old now, and so I'm just trying to make it home
I hear you.
That's my. I'm not worried now. I'm glad to be able to go to make it to 86 because so many of the schoolmates that we had, they've been gone. But by the grace of God, I'm still here. And my sis, she's 2 years younger than I. And I got a brother that's, he's 2 years older than myself, and Luther Wadley. And we all went to high school up here at Coolidge. And so I was in Colorado, and I went to college there, and when I moved to Mesa, I went to college there. So I graduated from Central Arizona College
Good.
all of the years. So I want to be able to say I fought a good fight,
Well, you sure did.
and I kept the faith.
Well, thank you for coming by.
On high,
If you have any problems,
reading my title clear.
you come back and see us.
In the sky.
All right.
I'll bid farewell and wipe my weeping eye.
Thank you, sir.
That's pretty good.
Okay, is there any more now?
Mayor, we have one more. Melissa Campbell.
Okay. Well, good evening, Ms. Campbell.
My name is Melissa Campbell. My address is 1229 Valley Farms Road, Coolidge, 85128. I run the River Club Gin, which is catty corner directly from this property. So first and foremost, I'm here to say that looks like, well, we've been in business for 76 years, and we've been at that location since 1980. So we've been there for a while. This map looks like 1,200 people calling and complaining about dust and module trucks coming through, which we already get complaints about. But we do our very best to make people happy, keep dust down, and just do our best and keep agriculture in the community. But we are a big supporter of the community. We spend a lot of money in the community and sponsor softball teams and all the good stuff. Aside from that, as a Coolidge resident, I just feel like the last few years, it seems like Coolidge has gotten the reputation for all development is good development, and I don't fault the gentlemen here that want to propose this. They're doing their job, but they are answering to shareholders, and you guys have to answer to your residents, and development's gonna come. Can we just be smart about it, please? I could go into why I think this is being done that has to do with water certificates, but I don't have hours to be here. So whatever the reason is, they've had this plan underway for a long time. They haven't done anything yet. This is probably going to be years down the road. It's not going to be affordable housing next year. Just be smart about what we're doing and how Coolidge is growing. And we have a new public works guy. Seems like he's trying really hard, like maybe catch up our roads before we add a whole bunch of more traffic to them. I don't know. I just think let's think forward and be picky about our growth, not just take whatever comes up to us first. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is that it? Okay, go ahead, gentlemen.
Put it up there. Good evening. My name is Howard Fingerroot. I represent the applicant Sun Communities. Thank you. I appreciate very much being able to be in front of you this evening. As you know, what we're proposing is an amendment to an existing PAD, one that was approved years ago, for residential. And we're making an amendment in order to provide attainable housing. And what do I mean by attainable housing? As all of us know, or may know, you know, there's been two things going on. A, there's been a big housing shortage throughout the country. Not only, you know, I see it in Arizona, you know, from the East Valley, Pinell County to the West Valley. I see it all over the country. We develop all over the country. And the second thing we see, other than the shortage, is housing prices have really shot up. There was an aberration with COVID that caused it, but really over the last 10, 15 years, we've seen nothing but housing prices go up, up and up. And we're looking to provide, and we're the largest provider in the United States of attainable housing. What's attainable housing? It's housing for the people in the community. It's housing for the nurses. It's housing for the teachers. It's housing for the firefighters. It's housing for the police. It just, like I said, housing has become unaffordable. And the way we do it at Sun Communities, we do it through manufactured housing. Now, I've been a home builder for 25 years, building stick-built homes, and we did it in the field. I was in a cold weather climate. My business was in the state of Michigan, and we built houses like we did, like was done for 100 years. People would be out there in the snow, sawing 2x4s, nailing them, and it would be, I think we did them pretty plumb, pretty square houses, but the houses that we're providing are built in a factory, and I can tell you from 25 years experience building in the field, the houses are pretty darn good quality. So we provide attainable housing, attainable priced housing, and we provide very much quality housing. I have with me today a team, so if there's any questions, I hope we can answer all your questions. Again, I'm Howard Fingerroot. I'm the president of Sunrise Land Group, and we do all the development for Sun across the country. With me today, I have a vice president from Sun, Lisa Harold, and she is very knowledgeable in all the operations and governance of our communities. So if there's questions like that, Lisa would be a perfect one to answer. Then I brought all the technical folks. We have Atwell and RVI. They are our site planners, they're our engineers. They do all the technical work with the city, and we have Ted Northrup and Casey from Atwell that can discuss any of that if you have questions as we go through our presentation. Just a little bit on Sun. Sun is a real estate investment trust. It's a big company. Like I said, we're the largest provider, owner-operator of attainable homes in the country, okay? Sun is actually in 3 different businesses. We're proposing today manufactured homes, but just to give you an idea of our scope and our scale, and I say this because you know that should this be approved, you have a solid company behind it, so you know that what we say we're going to perform on. So Sun has 3 different business units. Manufactured housing is the biggest. Okay, we have 100,000 lots across the country where people live in. Okay, and we operate the communities, and we operate them in a way that people like living there. They live there for a long time. In the communities, we invest in the communities so they stay nice. The roads in the communities are private. We take care of them so we don't impose that obligation on the city. And we'll get more into that in our presentation. So that's our first business unit. I'm going to go, if we can go back to that slide for a second. I just want real briefly, 30 seconds, to talk about the other 2 business units. We're not proposing either of them here. We're one of the largest owner-operators of RV resorts across the country. And thirdly, and we're definitely not proposing this here, we're the largest owner-operator of marinas in North America. So rest assured, we're not going to put in a marina today. But really what we come to talk about again is manufactured housing. Okay. So what we do is we build the subdivision. Okay. Then the homeowners come in, they buy a house from us, a manufactured home, and they rent the lot from us. So the house gets set on the lot, they pay like a mortgage, like you would on a stick-built house, and then they pay the rent like you would on an HOA fee. But by doing this, and by doing it with a manufactured home, we're able to provide something that's much more obtainable. In a future slide, I'm going to show you the difference between buying in one of our communities and buying in the master plan that's a few miles up the road. Every one of our communities is professionally managed. And again, if you have questions on what professionally managed means, we have Lisa here that can go through the different, the governance of that. So we have on-site managers. We reinvest, like I said, we have residency requirements, and there's a whole book on what it means to live in our communities. You have to keep your property up, your fences, or if there are fences, you got to keep your home up, the landscaping up. We have quiet hours, and the whole idea is to provide a very harmonious atmosphere for all our residents. Here are some of the rules and regulations that we have, and I don't want to go into them too specific, but a few things. Subleasing is not allowed. So when you come to us and you want to rent, you want to buy a house and rent the home site from us, it's you. We want to control who's in the community. We want to make sure that the people can afford the payments and be able to live in our community. We don't allow trampolines, hot tubs, swimming pools, and things like this. We want to make it very, very clean. Our quiet hours, like I said, are 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. And one of the big features is, and we do this through site planning, we have no on-street parking, okay? And we do that because we believe it's safer. You don't have kids dodging in and out of cars, that's one. We narrow the road section that reduces the speed, that also makes it safer for the kids. Let's see, and then obviously pets, they're not allowed unattended outdoors. And we have, like I said, on-site managers, and we control it. We talk to our homeowners. We know our homeowners, so we don't impose that obligation on the city and the city services. This slide is what I was talking about in terms of the savings. So let's take a average house in the master plan down the road, and let's call it $375,000. Many of the houses are over $400,000, and I assume some are, $325,000 to $375,000, but kind of an average is about $375,000. If you bought a home from us for $170,000 and paid the site rent, which is $600, $700, you'd save close to $1,000 a month. You'd save $1,000 a month living in our community. And if you look here, we took one from Richmond American, which is an actual house that they sell there, and we took one house here that you can buy from Sun Communities, and you could see that the aesthetics of the home itself, and I can tell you the quality of the home itself. We are in good shape when we look at both aesthetics and quality, and it's something that I think the community overall, that the city of Coolidge could be very proud of when they see a finished Sun community. We've spent a lot of time over the years updating our architecture. We do some homes with carports, we do some homes with garages, and we do some homes without structured parking. And that is all a matter of affordability. Okay, so we want to be able to have, like I said, a very attainable community where people can afford to live there. And not everybody that comes is going to be able to afford a carport. Not everybody that's there is able to afford a garage. So what we see, though, is when people move in, they may save up, and maybe 5 years later they're going to put in a carport. Maybe 5 years later they put in a garage. But a lot of times when they come in, they buy the most that they can buy at the time. But we offer these on every one of our lots, and some people buy without a structured parking, some people buy with a carport, and then some people buy with the full garage. in terms of the insides of the houses. And here we just took a collage of pictures. They're open floor plans, and they pretty much can get, many of the finishes and the fits and finishes that you can get by going to the production builders that you see, in the master plan down the way. If you wanted a granite countertop, or if you wanted a wood floor, if you wanted these types of faucets. These are all things that you can get in the manufactured home, and they're very spacious, efficient, and open floor plans. So what I want to do now is I want to turn it over to my colleague, Nikki Jeffries, this is her project, and she's going to kind of walk you through the site, the amenities, and things like that.
Thanks, Howard. Hi, thanks for having us. I'm just going to quickly go through the site here. I know we already talked about it, but this is part of the original Landmark Ranch PAD, which is shown in blue here. Our site is shown in yellow. We're about just under 320 acres on the southwest corner of Martin and Kenworthy Road. So this is the site. Next slide. This is our site plan, which we showed a little bit earlier. Just to zoom in here, as I mentioned, 319 acres. We've got a primary entry on the north side off of Martin Road there. We will be doing a very nice entryway, landscaping, entry monumentation. We'll show you more on that later. And then kind of goes straight into our central amenity area, which will have a clubhouse and pool, and I'll show you more detail on that as well. We've got 1,123 home sites, which are the little boxes shown in the tan here. They are about 55, they're all 55 feet wide by 110 deep, for a density of 3.5 per acre. We've got 16% open space, and you can see the open space kind of throughout in the landscaped brown and green areas. We've got multiple parks throughout, which I'll show in more detail later, trail system, etc. And then we've also, Howard mentioned, we don't allow on-street parking for safety reasons, aesthetic reasons, but we are proposing over 500 guest parking spaces here, which are typically at the ends of blocks, to allow for additional parking on top of what's already at each home site. So this gives you an idea of our overall site plan. Like I said, the primary entry is on the north side, and then we've also got 2 secondary entries on both the east and west side as well. This is a slide we added. There was some talk at the planning and zoning on water usage. The property right now is being farmed, cotton farming right now, which uses, we just wanted to do a comparison on how much water it's being used right now versus what we will use. Cotton farming uses 4.5 to 5 acre feet per acre of water, which equates to 1,420 acre feet per year. I won't get into all the math. If you want to see it later, I can provide it to you. So right now we're using for farming over 1,400 acre feet per year. For our proposed use with the 1,123 homes, using 94 gallons a day per person at 3.2 people per home, we get to 374 acre feet per year. So we're we're less than a third of what's being used right now for water. And Arizona Water will be providing water here. We've been in talks with them, so there is water mains at the 2 corners of our sites that will be connecting to. And if you have more questions on water, we've got our engineer here that can help with that as well. Next slide. These are the home sites I mentioned, just zoomed in a little bit more. As I mentioned, our typical home site is 55 feet wide by 110 feet deep, which you can see on the right side there. The corner sites are a bit larger, usually 70-ish feet wide. You can see where we have got space on the side for a carport or garage. We've got a driveway out the front, landscaping, etc. We are planning to build this in phases. We're going to start with the northwest corner, which is shown in yellow there, just under 220 lots. It'll include the main entryway feature I was talking about, as well as the central amenity area, and then the 218 lots. From there, we'll go south and do the blue phase 2, which is just over 250 lots. Phase 3 is actually split up in the pink. There's 62 over on the west side and 220 over on the east. And then you can see phase 4 in the orange and phase 5 in the green. So the phasing will be based on, market and how the homes are selling. Typically, we do phases between 175 and 275 lots, so this is very typical for Sun. Obviously, we'll have to do the site construction and then bring the homes in each phase. So it'll take some time to get through this whole project, probably 6 to 10 years for full build out. This is the entry monumentation I was talking about earlier. At the main entryway, we plan on doing a nice looking entry monument as well as landscaping. The one shown on the bottom is what we're proposing. The one in the middle is for the 2 secondary entryways. Just want to give you an idea of the kind of the landscaping and the theme for the development. I think we talked about earlier, or the planners talked about, we will be building the half street right-of-ways for the 3 around this, which is Martin, Scotian, and Kenworthy. So those will be those are minor arterials. So we'll be building those half right-of-ways, which that's shown up top here. And then if you go to the next slide. Internally, all our roads will be private, which is very typical for Sun communities. We maintain the roads ourselves, as well as the utilities on site, so that's less work for the city. Our private collector street detail is kind of the main road that runs in off Martin and then through the middle. That's on the bottom there. And then our proposed private local road section is on the upper left hand. As you can see, it's a little bit different than the City of Coolidge standard detail, but we don't allow parking on either side of the road. So we've got a 24-foot wide pavement section, clear access, which is wider and more area than a road with parking on both sides. We can go next slide. This is the amenity plan, a little bit more detailed. The lots are kind of in the background here in the light tan, and the parks are shown in the green and brown. You can see the main entryway as you come in up to the central amenity area. We are proposing a secondary amenity area over on the east side there. And then we have smaller parks kind of throughout the entire development, including dog parks, and just parks with trails, etc., that we'll be building. There is a trail network that goes through this, as well as sidewalks that connect to the trails. So if we go to the next slide, we can see a little bit of a blow up on the central amenity area. This is going to be very nice, a resort style pool, a clubhouse. We'll have nice landscaping, shade structures, play structures for the kids, yard games, obviously parking that's required here. So this gives you an idea of what Sun does for these amenity stacks. This will be built as part of phase 1, and it will be available for use for all of our residents. Next slide should show our secondary amenity area, which will be built in a future phase, but it includes a second pool, as well as some additional sports courts and trail areas, probably another play structure, etc. So we really encourage recreation. Our residents have, lots of amenities here to use and enjoy living in this community. We can go next slide. One more. All good. And finally, Howard mentioned, Sun owns many communities throughout the U.S. We just wanted to give you a few photos. You can obviously check the website as well, but Palm Creek over in Casa Grande is one of our very nice communities, which is more of a hybrid, both RV and MH, but it's a close by community that we wanted you guys to be aware of that Sun owns. Spanish Trails is also in Casa Grande. That is a newer community that we just recently purchased after it was developed, and that is going to be an MH community as well. And then in the bottom left is a community out in Michigan. And that's it for right now. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm curious, do you guys, is there an HOA in
So
these?
we don't do an HOA, and Lisa can probably answer a little bit more, but so Sun has rules and regulations and a community manager that oversees the entire community. And that is essentially the HOA. There's no made up of, you know,
There's not a board?
residents and board.
Okay.
Basically, if there's work that needs to be done, roads that need to be fixed, it's paid for by Sun. The HOA doesn't have to take that on.
Okay, so that, like Heartland and Carter Ranch and all those have HOA fees. There's no HOA fees for when you show the payment here, there's not an HOA fee that's on top of that that's not included in the payment. That's, okay. Okay.
Site rent, and it's that there's no HOA on top of that.
And I'm wondering, you're phasing it in phase one. At what point will the pool and the clubhouse, and what phase will that come in? I mean, if
The central amenity area there in the middle, that will come on with phase one. So that middle section there will come, that the clubhouse will be built there, the main pool and the amenities in that central amenity area. And then any of the additional parks within phase one, the boundary will be built with phase one.
And when you have people sitting at your office, we have pretty similar circumstances with Martin Valley and the dairy next to Martin Valley. Well, not exactly next to it, but just up the road a little bit. And a lot of people moved in, and there was a dairy sitting there, and they saw it. And they moved in, and then they didn't like the smell or the flies. I think that one of the speakers here tonight mentioned that, and I'm wondering if we're going to have the same issues. Will your salespeople tell them that there's a gin down the road and that there's, in all possibility, it's going to be dusty and there's going to be a lot of trucks coming by there?
I don't know, is that something that our salespeople will tell them?
And the dairy. The dairy's not far away.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Harold. I'm Vice President of Residential Development for Sun Communities. I don't have quite the yelling voice that Howard does, so I thought I'd better had step up. So first of all, you know, the relationship that we have with our residents is really, we have to follow landlord-tenant law. And what landlord-tenant law says is that we can't steer our prospects, whether it's to a specific neighborhood or to a specific section of the community. When they come and see us and tour our locations, they have to decide for themselves if this is the right community for them. If we know that we have specific considerations, maybe have neighbors that have a certain type of business, when an applicant comes in and applies with us, you know, we'll have conversations with them. We very much encourage a one-on-one relationship, and we may come into contact with a prospect 3, 4, 5 times before they purchase a home and, you know, come into our community. And when we move them in, we'll sit down with them and we do a very thorough move-in where not only do we talk about, you know, our place in the community, but we also talk about their home's place in our neighborhood and the responsibilities that they might have as a resident in our community. So we would hope that they would be aware of what's happening around them, but certainly if we know that there might be a problem, we want to have those conversations ahead of time.
Well, I take that as a no. I mean, that's the way I understand it. And let me tell you the reason that I have a problem kind of with that is because we just added a 24-hour fire department, but a lot of people that moved in to the new subdivisions thought we already had a 24-hour fire department. And that was kind of an issue. So I'm just concerned, and I know there's things you can say and can't say. And I don't want to say anything because our lawyer over here, he jumped on me the other day because I said something, but you know, I want to make sure that I know there's things that you can mention that you can disclose when you talk to them, things in the area.
Oh, of course. I mean, we,
And it
as
sounds to
Howard
me like
mentioned,
what you're
we,
saying is after they've already bought it and they're ready to move in, that's when you're going to let them know.
no, I'm sorry if that came across that way.
It
So
sounded that way to me, but
we manage communities and own communities all over the country. We
Mm-hmm.
have communities that are in rural neighborhoods just like this all over. For example, I have an RV resort that was under our management that is right next to a train track. And so, as you can imagine, when I'm an RV guest and I'm paying quite a bit of money to come and stay with you in your nice community, I might not necessarily appreciate the train going by every 2 hours throughout the night. And so, as part of our reservation process with those customers, we will talk to them about the fact that we do have a train. If you have children that are under 5 years old that might have sleep that's disrupted due to that, we might want to talk to you about perhaps a different location in our community. So, following landlord tenant law without steering people, which could be construed inappropriately, if we know that there are considerations or concerns in that neighborhood that we're going to be in, and especially if it's brought up during our development processes, we'll definitely have those conversations with our residents to let them know, just so you know, we have neighbors that are conducting business and we want you to be aware, and then you can make the decision of if this community.
that's all we're asking. I mean, like I say, the apartment complex that just opened up, the newest one in town. You can stand where they're at their clubhouse and hit the train with a rock when it goes by. So there's no. I mean, you're not going to get away. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty easy for them. So.
And
I
we're,
just wanna
we're
make-
very familiar with those kinds of
And
considerations.
I noticed that, oh no, the Reverend's still sitting over there, but where they're at, I know our wastewater treatment plant, I think Ben probably tell you, but it probably runs down the road, but it does head north from this location. So I don't know that they would have any occasion to dig through his yard, like Southwest Gas may or may not have done. But we want to make sure that even though they're in the county, they're still surrounded by the Coolidge city limits, as is the gin, it's in the county. So, but we don't need any problems for them either, so we want to make sure everything gets taken care of. And that's another question I had. Are you going to run those lines out through all the phases initially when you do your infrastructure? Or are you just going to run them out to phase one and add on to them if everything's going well, if this thing goes?
We'll do it by phase. There's
Okay.
probably some, Casey can probably speak to it more detailed, but there may be some large mains that we have to put all of them into. I don't know that we have a utility, but we'll have to put it in all of it. But then as far as the utilities and roads for that specific phase, that will go in per phase.
That's what I thought, but I
So
wanted
any-
to ask.
Any of the main stuff, we're gonna have to put in utilities along the main roads on the perimeters as well. So that will go in per phase unless I'm guessing for phase one, we're probably gonna have to run to the corner, to the intersections to get the water and utilities. So we'll build whatever is necessary to service that phase and to get the water and sewer there.
And I know in some of the preliminary discussions, there was conversations about a wall around it. How, you're not going to be able to finish the wall, obviously, until you get the whole thing. Are you going to wall off phase? You can't really wall off phase one.
We won't wall off the phases.
You'll just come down the road.
It's just an exterior wall around the entire, so it would be, I don't know if we've actually decided on if we will build the entire wall or wall it in, but it won't be walled the whole phase in, but the exterior wall built per phase.
Okay, because I see you have the gates and everything and the sign. So I'm wondering if you're just going to do, your main entrance is going to be off of, what, Skousen? Martin.
Off the north.
Okay, so. I don't know. We're only going to be here till midnight.
Not me.
I know. Well, not right now, you can't, but I will get with you before this is over. All right. Yeah, so that takes care of that too. So you're gonna start building it without a wall then? Well, you don't know. You guys don't know, right?
I don't think we've decided if we'll build the wall around the entire property or not. I think it will depend on,
Well, what about just the main side that they enter on?
what was that?
Along Martin Road.
Around,
Yeah, you're asking questions that we haven't really
yeah,
worked through all the details of yet, but
Okay.
probably we'll do it north-south, down Skousen, and then east-west down Martin.
okay.
Complete that.
Well, I'm just trying to, it doesn't make sense to build it around
Right.
the whole thing, but I mean,
Yeah, there's so much detail, as you know, and that's why the process is such that, the next step, should we get approved, would be to, do the major site planning, and then we have to do the utility plan, and that's when a lot of these things come to pass. But I would say, from experience, that's probably what we'll do. We'll probably do those two
okay,
right away.
all right.
Mayor Thompson?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things. I just was wondering, now you're going to do this in phases, correct?
Yes.
Okay, now are you going to continue to allow farming in the phases that are not under construction?
Likely not, but that's another thing we haven't specifically worked out. I would assume that there's probably some grading that needs to be done throughout the entire site. So guessing once we start construction on phase one, the farming will end.
I thought it said in there that they were. I thought, but maybe I was reading.
Being farmed right now, but we haven't started. Well, it would be farmed until right before we started construction, essentially.
It
And then,
really could be done either way, though, once we do phase one. Oftentimes, we got to do mass grading on, more than phase one for stormwater and whatnot. So, once we do that, obviously, there won't be farming.
We're just here for zoning.
now, and then one other thing is, as we were talking about the cotton gin and everything, you are going to be around other agricultural fields. And there is, as Reverend Watley pointed out, there is aerial spraying that goes on. And that, I think, is something else you're probably going to have to, that I would almost be certain you'd have to disclose that to potential renter, because, I mean, there's drift. There always is. I live out in a rural area, and I get drift all the time from crop dusters. So that's another thing. I also would like to know, when you say attainable housing, I think we're actually trying to say affordable housing. And in doing that, so what do you see as a minimum lot rent, and what do you see as being a minimum payment for the manufactured home?
Okay. Let me first say the idea between affordable and attainable. Affordable typically has a connotation of government subsidized, and that's not what we are. So that's why we purposely do not say affordable, because that would be like a Section 8 or equivalent to it, a Section 8. That's not what we do. There's no government subsidies as it relates to our homes. The homes will range from $125,000 to, in today's dollars, $125,000 to $225,000. But I would think it would be closer to less than, probably $150,000 to $175,000 would be my guess.
Okay.
Then lock rents could be in the range of minimum. I'm going to give you a range for minimum and a range of maximums. $500-$600 to $750. So $500 to $750 would be a range.
Okay. And
Again, we're talking, today's dollars, right? 10 years
Right.
from now, it's going to be different.
Right, and then what about the payment on the actual manufactured home?
Okay, so it would be very similar to a home purchase. So, you'd have principal and interest.
Right.
And so it would be as though you bought a $170,000 home.
Okay, so.
So what is an average payment?
Right.
I wish I would have brought my tables. We're probably in with 600. Give me 1 second to do some quick math here. On a $100,000 mortgage or note, you would probably be about $500 or $600 a month. So you'd say on the mortgage. So say you did $150,000 and you mortgaged it all, you would be $750 and $600. So you're $1,500 or below.
So 1,500, then you have the 700.
No, I included that. That includes
Okay,
that.
because if I'm not mistaken, I believe at the P and Z meeting, watched it.
Yep.
It was stated there that the mortgage payment on the manufactured home would probably be between $1,500 to $1,900, and the rent $700 to $800. So even on the low end of that, you're looking at $2,200 a month. No?
The numbers are included. So we have third-party lenders that we use that will do financing, and the terms are typically somewhere between 10 and 20 years, depending on credit and all of that. So, depending on the price point on the house, on a $100,000 loan for a 20-year loan, you're talking somewhere between $500 and $800 a month for your mortgage payment, which you pay your lender. And then you have a site rent payment, which you pay to Sun Communities.
Right.
So your cumulative payment for site rent and mortgage would be less than $2,000. Now, we do also have rental products, so sometimes people get confused between the two. If we were to rent a home in its entirety to someone, then that payment could be $1,600 to $800 a month in home rent. So I think that's sometimes where there's some confusion, is what is the difference between if I have a mortgage and lot rent, or if I'm just renting the home from you.
Okay. Now,
And let me try this too. The only way we're successful, okay, and again, we have over 100 communities and 100,000 residences, is if we provide a meaningful difference between buying a stick-built house and living in our community. So in our case, where somebody buying a $375,000 house versus $170,000 with us, they're saving $1,000 a month as opposed to buying a stick-built home.
okay,
And if we can't do that, then we're not successful.
right.
Okay? And we're putting millions and millions of dollars in here, and we have the confidence that, we'll be successful because we've done it.
Okay. Now, and maybe Mr. Lopez can answer this question. How are these going to be treated when it comes to impact fees? Do we treat them as a single-family residence for each one of those that are built, or are they multi-housing?
We have a different rate for rental versus single-family home, and maybe Rick, we can.
If I remember correctly, I think they're the same rate. Single-family home, manufactured home, same rate, same impact fee. Multifamily housing is a little lower,
Right.
but I believe the single-family and manufactured housing are very similar. I'll double-check that for you, but I can look it up while you're asking more questions here on the city
Okay,
website.
yeah, because I saw that we have on here single-family unit and we have multifamily unit for our impact fees, and I'm just, because depending on how it's treated, if it's treated, under the same guise as a multifamily, we're gonna
Yeah, you go to the.
chunk of impact
Yeah, well,
fees.
there's a large impact fee on this project.
Right,
And I think if you look under the land use assumptions report and the definitions, I think the manufactured housing falls right under single family in terms of the definitions, but I'm going to verify that for you real quick.
yeah, because I think that's very important that we make that determination, because this project is gonna have a huge impact on the community, because as you said, I don't know how you factor 3.2 people per home site out there or not, but I know that some may have 4 or 5 people living in the home, okay. And it's not gonna be age restricted, so these folks are still gonna be coming out, probably working folks, and they're gonna have kids and they're gonna go out. And so putting 3,000, and if they have multiple cars and everything else, out onto Skousen Road, Martin Road, I mean, that's gonna be huge. And we aren't ready for that out where this is located, because if they come down Martin Road and they come into Coolidge and they go to Arizona Boulevard, we've got an intersection there that we'll probably need a light on, and we know how fast the Department ADOT works with that. We're still waiting on Skousen and 87. And this is also going to be the same way. Skousen, they take that out. we're going to have to widen that as well. So that's going to put additional impact on the community when this goes in, or if this goes in.
So I guess I would say two things on that. As it was pointed out earlier, we're building the half right-of-ways on the surrounding roads. That's one. We do a traffic impact study during the various phases, and it gets more specific. And then I don't know if they're county roads or city roads, but obviously we have to deal with the county, whatever the standards are, we do for that. And again, this is probably closer to a 10-year build-out, okay? So this happens over the course of a decade. And, you know, we follow all the rules, regulations, and then we do a traffic impact study that analyzes the amount of traffic on the roads and what potential impacts that would have and what mitigations might be required. So it's as we move forward in the process, as we go through site planning, a lot of those details are ironed out. But again, it's nothing today, and if it takes us a year to build phase one and it takes us 10 years or, you know, even 12 years to build this out, you know, clearly things change over the course of a decade or so.
Okay. And then the interior roadways are another concern of mine because I think we're taking a step back now. You guys want to shrink them because you say you're not going to allow parking on the street. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think they really wanted them to allow parking on the street in a lot of the subdivisions we have now, but people still do it.
So
and how are you going to police that and keep people from doing it?
Okay. So first and foremost, again, the structure of this is we have 3 parking spaces per home site, and then we have over 550 guest spaces, plus we have additional guest spaces in the central amenity area. Okay. So we provide what we find to be a significant amount of parking, and again, that parking comes from experience. We want our homeowners to be happy, number one, right? So if we don't provide enough parking, nobody's happy. So we look at what works, and we think this is a formula that does work. We've narrowed the roads, but all the geometry for the firefighters, the fire engines, everything else, that all works on our 28-foot back-to-back, okay, 24 foot of pavement, 2 foot of a curb on each side. And then we monitor it. We have on-site management, and they knock on the door if somebody's parking illegally on the street. Obviously, there's some exceptions. We talked about that during P&Z. If somebody's moving in, or if there's a city truck that needs to be doing something, or a FedEx truck, whatever, and they're parked on the street, there are some exceptions, but people cannot park on the street with commercial vehicles, with house, whatever. They get a rap on the door from the manager, says you got to move your vehicle.
Good luck with that.
So,
it's a,
yeah, go ahead.
I have a question, Chief Dillon. Is this kosher with what they're saying? Is this right?
Chief, but you don't mind standing up and coming up here, do you?
Or do the streets correct for the fire department? We can take care of that in the site plan.
So the streets that they're proposing would definitely have to go to planning and zoning or in front of the council in order to get that size approved.
If I can, Mr. Mayor, they're not doing a subdivision. This is a rental park. They're all private. They're regulating their own development standards by not allowing on-street parking. As they've illustrated and talked before the Planning Commission, council, and staff, the cross-section of this road will be wider than the cross-section of our typical local streets where we allow parking on both sides. You have a wider travel lane between curbs than you do between cars on our local streets today in this development. Now, if for some reason they don't enforce that regulation and they allow parking on the street, then it would be a problem.
And people aren't going to be safe.
Yeah.
That would be a problem if they allow parking on the street.
Correct. Yeah. If there is, if they're proposing the 28, you know, when we do access lanes fire access lanes for some of these solar projects and stuff like that. We're allowing them to do 20-foot because they're an access lane. There's no extemporaneous parking and stuff. When you get into a residential area with a street this size, if you have people that are parked on the street, you have service vehicles that are performing work at the house that park on the street, something like that, then that will cut down the access that we have in order to get to this community. But if they have a plan in place to police this the parking on the street, then that's something that we'll look at when they submit their plans.
I don't have a question, but I have a couple concerns that I hope we can address. Is that okay? Can I bring them
go
up?
ahead.
Okay, so first of all, when we talk about, and this is my understanding, when we talk about large residential rental community, they pay lower taxes because you're paying it on the property, right? It's lower, it's the same rate, but it's lower than a subdivided community. And when you compare these things, let me finish. Thank you. I think, we all want impact fees, right? Coolidge loves impact fees. This is how we get to do projects. But when we look at the long-term way of what this means, let me just show you the illustration. So it's the combination of its sheer size that I think people are worried about. Lower property taxes that will cause issues. We're talking about 1,100 more rental homes contributing less in city revenue while increasing the need for city services. We're talking about increase in demand for police, fire, libraries, streets outside of your community. As it stands now, this would increase the population of Coolidge by 20%. But let me illustrate the point that I'm making. We already have a similar situation, but in a smaller scale. So the Mobile Village is on 20 acres. And in 2022, they paid $15,473 in property taxes. Just a few blocks west of that, on the subdivided homes and vacant lots on 6th to 8th Street on Dewey and Taylor, they paid more than double that, which was it was double that, $27,443 in property taxes. So once impact fees are gone, this is just going to be a lower rate that the city gets to bring in year after year. And I think that's a concern that our citizens have. What do you do with that? Because everybody else outside of that development is going to have to pick up those services. Let me finish. And another concern that people have overall is on our housing market. By offering 1,100 more rental homes, it will undercut the value of surrounding properties, leading to a decrease in property values for homeowners in our area. If this happens, the result is a reduced property tax revenue for the city and an increase in demand for the rest of the residents. I'm glad you clarified on the affordable housing and attainable housing, because people keep saying affordable, which there are guidelines that have to be made. So attainable is you guys saying that, yes, you get a home that is on property that you can never own, but that does go down in value. Where a home that people buy conventionally, our homes they increase in value. So there are some differences. But thank you for clarifying it unattainable. And I just want to say, I want growth in our city, but I also want it to be the right growth. And I think our residents are worried about having such a large rental home community in their area and possibly devaluing the homes that they've paid for and having to pay more taxes and to deal with the services that are going to have to come for 20% more of our population over the 5 years or 10 years or whatever. So I just want to share those concerns.
Can I, if you're finished, can I just, there's one clarification. So in terms of the taxes that are paid, okay, so Sun Communities is going to own the lot, so we'll pay the taxes on the lot, the value of the lot based on the millage rate.
Yep.
And then the homeowner pays, and this is typical in pretty much across the country, personal property tax on the home itself. And in many cases, and I would be surprised if it's not the case here, but when you add it two together, they're paying the same millage rate, right? So we're paying on the land and they're paying on the value of the home.
If you compare the two, it's not. On the same exact situation we have here now.
And that's also if the home appreciates in value like a regular stick-built home would, which I don't think manufactured homes do. In the 42 years I've been in the title business, I can tell you manufactured homes, a lot of times they don't hold that value.
You know, it's interesting. We have the average tenant, the average homeowner, should I say, because when we say rental, we're kind of a hybrid there, right? They own the home, they rent a lot. So our average homeowner stays in one of our communities from 12 to 14 years. So we have longevity in there. And again, it's not always going to be equal to $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 subdivisions, but there's a reason. There's a need for attainable housing. So is there some trade-offs? Yes, but we do pay our taxes on the land, and the homeowners do pay their taxes on their houses through the personal property taxes. And I'm sorry if I interrupt. I didn't mean to interrupt. My wife does the same thing. She starts talking, and it's Howard, stop.
Okay,
So I wanted to answer some questions around parking, because as you can imagine, this is a pretty common question that we get. We understand and respect that ordinances and, restrictions are set in place for a reason. We, of course, are very concerned about the safety in our communities and of our. So when we talk about our communities, there's something very important that sets us apart from a stick-built neighborhood. So if I buy a home from KB or LGI or any of our builders in our neighborhood, I buy the home and my relationship with the builder is done. I might have a warranty or I might have other things that I need to seek from them after the fact, but we're finished and they're on to the next development. Sun has a vested interest in maintaining a lifestyle in our communities. So we're not just selling you a home, we're selling your family an experience. And whether you're coming in as a first-time home buyer or an affordable housing buyer, we're still trying to give a lifestyle that has quality amenities and well-managed communities. And part of the amenity package that we don't talk about is our community manager. So each of these communities are typically staffed with between 8 and 12 team members. So we have community managers, assistant managers, maintenance team members, we have rangers. And so each of these team members is actively curating the experience of the community. Part of the package is having regular patrols of the community day and night and having a manager who actually lives in the community. So as part of our compensation for our community manager, we provide them a free home in the neighborhood so that they and their family also have a vested interest in the community being well managed and well maintained. And so we do regular evening patrols, we do regular daytime patrols, and part of our orientation with the sitting down and talking to people about the 3 or 5 frequent rule violations that we're going to see. What are things that we're going to have to talk to people about all the time? Not leaving your pets outside unattended, not leaving your children outside unattended, our parking policy, other things that might cause friction between ourselves and our residents, because we want them to have a good experience coming in. And we have examples in Arizona right now of this parking. If you look at Palm Creek, if you look at Spanish Trails in Casa Grande, if you look at Buena Vista or Leaf Verde in Buckeye, these are conditions that exist today, and these are conditions that exist in our portfolio throughout the country. And the reason that it works is because whether you're in a 55 plus or an all age community, our residents are buying into a lifestyle, a walkable, safe, friendly neighborhood that includes having the ability for the fire department or other services to get to our residents and our fellow community members So we have many examples of why this situation and why this parking structure we feel is safer for our communities and is a better experience for our residents. And having worked for Sun and overseen communities all over the country for over 12 years, I can tell you that it's very rare that you have a situation that's a problem with coaching of your residents when they move in. And the fact that we're offering 3 parking spaces at each home, which is not typically something that you can get in a planned community. Most of the communities that you have here that have been approved only have parking stalls for 2. So we take that into consideration when we're asking for those type of variances. The fact that we have over 500 overflow parking spots, which means 1 overflow stall per household, as well as an additional stall at their home site.
Thank you. Do you have anything else? Does anybody have any questions? Okay, Reverend Wiley, you got 2 minutes.
That doesn't include the wastewater.
In that area out there, it's mostly older people live out there, and it's hard for us to get out on Martin Road. Sometimes it'd be them tractors with them balers and things, and at a certain time of day they lined up there at the light, and we can't get out on the road now, and it's only if it's a flashing light, well, everybody got to stop 4 ways. And so that's the problem. And I haven't heard anything about, a few years ago, they wanted to put some more buildings up at CAC. And they wanted to put a sewage line right down Martin Road all the way up to, but they wanted the government to pay for it. But the government would pay, so they canceled the whole thing. So on the north side of Martin Road, they said we can't put no more sewage or no septic tanks over there. So what are they going to do about sewage on the south side and the water? And if it's this crowded now, the farmers are not going to stop farming, and they're close to that gin, and they have business there. They come all night, and so it ain't going to be no peaceful community no more. Well, it is now, because all these tractors and trucks and the people going to work, and they got these little noisy cars. The smallest cars may make the most noise. You think the train up there would be the most, but they drive so fast and dangerous, and so we have problems out there, but we manage it and getting by. But the traffic that's out there now is not going to stop. It's going to increase. And you got a light at Skousen and Martin for a 4-way stop, and so this is what I'm saying. What about the sewage system? And the other thing, you got those mobile homes with steps on them. Most of the people coming are not going to be young people, because the young people don't have much money. And they figure out this and figure out that, but taxes, you can't forget taxes, because they're going to come, and the mobile homes got steps on them, and half the people coming go out to climb those steps, and then you pretty soon, because I got a mobile home on the north side, but I got mine in ground. So I don't have no steps, and if I had steps, I'd have trouble.
Reverend, I got a council member here that is on oxygen and he's about to run out. I don't want him to die here. So thank you. We appreciate it. Well, maybe we'll come out and see you. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
If I may, just briefly for the benefit of the audience and the council members, this development will be required to pay impact fees. Require impact fees for any development, and by definition, an impact fee is a fee that's paid to help offset the cost of development. You know, in theory, the impact fees helps you to pay for the infrastructure that's needed to support the added requirements from the development. In this case, every unit would be paying $4,719 per unit. At 1,123 units, that amounts to just right at $5,300,000. That's for parks, fire, and streets. That does not include wastewater. If you add wastewater to that impact fee, depending on how they are going to serve this area with a meter, that's based on a water meter size. If it were individually metered at 3/4-inch meters, they'd pay an additional $2,183 per unit for wastewater service. That helps to expand the wastewater treatment plant when the time comes to expand the plant. So as this project develops, the theory behind impact fees is they pay for those costs that require the additional public improvements that everybody's worried about. In addition to that, as they're building these adjacent arterial roadways, they'll be required to pave the arterial roadway adjacent to the project. In my mind, it would be better if they paved the south half of Martin Road right up front, and basically the east half of North Skousen Road right up front. I'm not so sure about North Kenworthy Road because those are later phases and nobody's going to be coming out that way. But initially, they're going to be coming out in this first phase onto Martin Road and onto North Skousen Road. And I think that those improvements, at least those half-street improvements, should be completed adjacent to the development on both those sides, much like they talked about the wall, the exterior wall. But just to kind of let everybody know, that's what you're looking at in terms of impact fees for this project. And again, those impact fees are to help offset the cost of future expansion of our roadways, our fire department, because we collect for a fire impact fee, parks as well, collect a fee for each one of those. Now, we're going to be doing a new impact fee study potentially here in the next year, potentially. We talked about that a little bit in our budget discussion earlier. We may add police and some other library. We may add that back in eventually to help, cover some of those costs. When you collect an impact fee, you have to expend those impact fees for which you've collected within a 10-year period, or you have to refund those impact fees back to the people that paid them. So just a little information on impact fees and infrastructure.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody else? Did somebody else?
Mayor, we do have one more individual, Gabrielle Gonzalez.
Hi, my name's Gabrielle Gonzalez. I live at 649 West Palo Verde Avenue. I am a resident here in Coolidge, and I also work for Sun Communities as well. I work at the Palm Creek Resort and Residences in Casa Grande, Arizona. Some of your guys' concerns today are valid. The parking on the streets, just to give you guys some insight on what I do on my daily job, we have rangers that drive the streets daily, hourly, all day long. We have rovers that drive the streets throughout the day and the evening. They also cite them if they're not supposed to be there. Every vehicle has a tag on the vehicle, so we know who owns the vehicle and call them and have them move that car immediately. So I know that was a big concern about fire, police coming through the property safely, not only for the public safety, but for resident safety and children's safety. That is something we do address daily. The other thing is the road, Martin Road in Skousen. I drive that road every day going to Casa Grande and coming home. I know Hennis Road, which we are on in Casa Grande, Arizona, is just as busy, if not busier. Sun has put in a turning lane, which gets us in and safely in and out of the property, which I'm sure they would possibly do here, we would have to do here. So some of your guys' concerns, I can tell you that we do address daily at Palm Creek. I do think this, as a resident, is a huge attainable housing for those folks as myself that can't buy a $400,000 home right now, or the homes that were lower in pricing 2 years ago, 3 years ago. This is another option for us families that are growing, a place to call our home, to raise our children, to have amenities such as a pool, a basketball court, to walk them on these different trails. So for me as a resident, this is amazing to see the growth here in our community. And I know some of your guys' concerns I can speak to as working for Sun Communities in Casa Grande, that the concerns you've had, I'm sure we've had in Casa Grande, but we've done a phenomenal job on making sure everyone's safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Norma. Anybody, anything else? Okay, then we will move out of this public hearing and move into item number 9 to receive public comments on rezoning a certain parcel of land from agriculture to general business consisting of approximately 7.41 acres, more or less, located at the southeast corner of West Coolidge Avenue and South 9th Street, Coolidge, Arizona.
Mayor Thompson, Vice Mayor Henry, council members. This is, and I neglected to introduce Phil Garthright. He's our senior planner for the city, so he's running the computer for us and doing a great job so far. And so what we have now is a property that's on the southeast corner of Coolidge Avenue and 9th, and it's turned sideways, so it would normally be up like this, where our West School's up here. So this is what used to be the Wildermuth property over there. That's who started this and farmed it back in the day, and the kids at school would actually use it. So this is a request for rezoning from agriculture on 7.41 gross acres to C2 general business zoning. Okay, so this is on behalf of, we have Greg Davis from iPlan, and also I believe Josh, that are here to speak on this, but we just wanted to show you the conceptual portion of the C2. The rest, this is a more detailed plan of a concept here. Again, they'll have to come back with the site plan and go through P&Z. This is just showing the potential uses on the commercial site on that corner. And they'll have a presentation, I believe they'll make themselves. Phil, is this the last slide we have? Okay, but this, okay. All right, so Mayor, if you'd like, I don't know if you want to allow the public to speak like the last one and then they present, whatever you'd like to do, it's your pleasure.
Well, what we do, let's let the public come up. We got 3 minutes. Normally, you don't put the timer on anymore, or is?
Usually for the public hearings, Mayor, we don't. It's usually
Oh, they
only,
can, as long as they, well,
but we do have one speaker right now.
Oh, well,
that's
then
going to
that's
speak
fine.
under 9, 10, and 11. So it's all 3 rezonings, but we can have her,
oh, that's fine. Let's bring her up.
Diane, and hopefully I don't screw this up too bad, but Bohusevic or something.
My name is Diane Boashevitz. That's why I said, by that spelling, nobody ever gets it right.
Okay.
My address is 704 West Gibson Avenue here in Coolidge. I'd like to speak, although you have it separated into 3, is one plan with just basically 3 phases, okay? And I'm like most of you guys, I'm here, I work here, I live here, I've done so for a very long time, not as long as some of our residents, but I'm all for growth. I have some major concerns. 9, not so much, because the commercial part, there's only a few of them. There is an elementary school literally across the street. We have already problems there with kids almost getting hit. They dart across the street, they don't always follow the crosswalk, and their main entrance into the building, I mean, the business part of it is going to be right, like literally next to the crosswalk there. In addition to that, they want to have another entrance off of 9th. And like a couple of people had mentioned before, getting on and off the road is bad enough. When we had the previous housing go back up and getting built, it takes me almost twice as long to get across Coolidge now, much less getting to Florence, which is where I work. Okay, so, but some of the other issues I have, besides the kids' safety, that's a real big one for me, obviously. The impact on the traffic issues. We already have problems. Again, this is a rental community, except for this business portion. So you're talking about a lot of homes going in there, a lot of dust and all that stuff that goes with building, whether it take 5 years, 10 years, it doesn't matter. We're going to have those type of issues. We have a lot of people that have health issues in that area. I'm afraid that all that dust and all that other stuff is going to have a huge impact on that. For me personally, having 2-story houses built, there goes my view. I'm in the cul-de-sac. I have a nice view outside my house. There goes my view. That will automatically decrease my property value because half of my property value is about the view. I get to see part of the mountains. I get to see the fireworks from my backyard. That's really cool. Thank you for that up. Anyway, like I said, I was also really concerned about the property values. The water, we already have some sewage and water problems from time to time. This is going to impact it even more. You are talking about an awful lot of more people, in addition to all the other developments that are going up, being already second, third phases going into places for the other stuff that's been up here. And we didn't talk about the need for more schools. We have all these people coming in to school. West Elementary is at its breaking point, like way past its breaking point already. You're going to add 2,000 families here, and that's not including Scousins. Where are the kids going to go to school? We don't have that type of structure here. Libraries are great because I'm all for reading. I love it. But the kids have to get educated, and I don't really like virtual education. I think our kids have suffered through no physical interaction with kids their own age. Their social skills suck. So I'm really concerned about the schools, as well as the other resources. Like everybody said, you know, we'll have an increase for fire, medical, all that type of stuff. And yes, it's a private gated community and such, but think about the businesses. As much as I like the idea of the businesses, because I think we need other places, some entertainment. Where are we going to entertain all these kids? They're going to be out doing what? When they're not physically at home, what are they going to go do? We barely have stuff here around for the kids to do now when summer's out. Could you imagine adding that many more children with the limited stuff we have for kids to do here? Parents still have to go to work. That means a lot of those kids are either in daycare, which I'm not sure how they'd afford it now, and what are they going to do? I mean, the city pool, I mean, how many kids can you fit there? We don't have the passes anymore. You know, things that are affordable for our kids to do now, we're not going to be able to add that to all the other kids. We can't do that now. We have school coming out in like, 6 weeks? I don't even know what the 3 grandkids I have custody of are going to be doing. So the resources for that type of stuff. And then the impact on the rest of the town. Well, everybody's concerned with impact fees and how they apply to expanding major roads. You are still talking about, 6,000 more people driving on all the rest of the roads in town. So the impact fees may, like in this particular case, affect Coolidge and 9th and stuff like that, but it's not going to help for the fact that Arizona is going to be like bombarded with that many more people. You know, if they want to get from point A to point B and go up through town, they're going to be going through Martin and Skousen, because that's how I get to Phoenix if I need to. If I need to go to Florence, then what about the road between 9th and Coolidge and all the way up to Florence? All those roads are going to have to get done. It's not just going to affect one road. And I'm like everybody else. I like my agriculture. I really do. I enjoy the smell when they're sitting here doing all the harvesting and stuff. To me, that's wonderful. And I really don't mind the dairy farm smell, but I was raised around that stuff, so it doesn't bother me much. But again, the impact stuff on this, the businesses are going to have a lot more traffic, hopefully, to be successful. They'll have to have a whole lot more traffic, and a lot of that's going to be at night. And I don't even know if we have the lighting structures for that in place. So like I said, I'm concerned about the impact for that area. As much as I like to see it grow, it's kind of really condensing a lot of stuff. And like a couple of people have already mentioned, impact fees aren't going to cover the rental differences because this section is really about rentals. It's not about any type of home ownership. It literally is about rentals. So the impact for the other resources that are going to be needed as people are moving in and out and all the construction. But that was about it. I went over 3 minutes, I'm sorry.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is Greg Davis. I'm with iPlan Planner and offices located in Queen Creek. If you don't mind going back to the bigger slide, I'll just talk holistically a little bit about the project. We don't really have a presentation. We just wanted to basically come and respond to questions. But holistically, this is really an infill property. It is surrounded by development basically on all four sides. The piece has been in agriculture in the past, although that's not going to be the case moving forward. So it's really what is the highest and best use for this property as we look at it from a land planning perspective. Single family, unfortunately, is not option at this point, and so we look at being able to provide a diversity of housing types for the community. And we do that through various different ways. We tend to stay away from traditional apartments. Those tend to get very dense. It creates a lot of the density issues that are being discussed today. But when we develop in more of a, we call it medium density range, such as the product which is on my side is at about 8 units per acre. And then the southern product is about a little over 4 units per acre. So, apartments are typically 18 to 20. So definitely quite a bit less dense than a traditional multifamily. But we do think that in order for the city to get where they want to be as far as having amenities for their population, having entertainment venues, more shopping options, you have to have the rooftops to do that. That's the only way businesses will invest the millions of dollars to come to a community is when they have the buyers to frequent their uses. And so the city has to find that balance. We don't want all density. We don't want all low density. We have to find that balance, and it's different for every community. What we're trying to do is bring in a variety, a diversity of not only just housing types, but lifestyle types. There may be people that want to have a single-family lifestyle experience with a yard, 2-car attached garage, no adjacent neighbors touching their home, but may not be able to afford it. And that's what the product on the south, which is the right side of the screen, is. And then there's other folks that want something a little more dense. They don't need as much space. They don't need a private yard. They want a lower price point for their living expense. And that's what this product on the left side of the screen is really for. It's kind of a lock and leave. There's no yard maintenance. There's no house maintenance. There's a pool, community center, grill, activity center, fitness center. Much more of an urban type of lifestyle. But we're still at 40% open space. So we're not cramming a bunch of homes in here. We are trying to create nice, livable communities that we think will enhance the overall city of Coolidge by allowing a diversity of different types of housing choices, but also bringing demand for the retail. And that is a good transition into that corner property. We put that in there because we really think that this area is deserving of some neighborhood level of retail. Most of the retail in the city is obviously located on 87, and it's a mile away about, so it's not too far away. But because of the density that we're bringing in here, we want to create something that's walkable. Neighborhood level, this is not a big site. You're not going to have a bunch of drive-throughs and high traffic uses. Those are not going to locate on this street. They're going to locate on the main drag. So these uses are more your daycare services, your professional offices, medical offices. A lot of those uses that look to be off the main street but still accessible for the community. So we submitted this plan, and it is conceptual. We talked about issues of traffic at the P&Z meeting. We mentioned that our access point off Coolidge, could be closed, and we could have 2 access points on 9th Street. So there's a lot of detail, decision that can be made to address those types of issues that I believe we get into at the site plan level of the project. But we understand that we're going to be adding impact. We talked about impact fees quite a bit tonight. We're committing to all the road improvements. We're committing to a signal if it's needed, a secondary signal for where the school is located, which is towards the top of the property there. I did reach out to the school district. They do have capacity for this project. They're actually very excited about the project. So we wanted to make sure that we could come here and tell you that we reached out to them in that regard. And I think the thing I'll stop with, at least for this site, is a lot of the infrastructure that is needed for this area comes from development. The cities don't have a lot of budgets to put in infrastructure where there's not development. And that's a big component of what we bring to the table, not only just immediately adjacent to us, but where the city requires it. The city has control about where we can, where our impact is and where our responsibility is for improvements. And we're committed to, follow through on that that discussion at the next level of the project. So I'll stop there for this site, but if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Did you say it's 20, or what was your percentage of open space?
So each site is different. The open space for commercial, well, we're not calling it out. So it's about 25% for this portion, but again, this is just conceptual site plan. It's 40% for that portion, the higher density, the 8-unit per acre multifamily. And then I believe it's about 22% for the more traditional single family for rent.
Thank you.
You bet.
How many total units altogether?
It's about 400.
400.
Yeah, I think the speaker was talking about the other project combined with all the growth, 6,000. We're 400 units here.
So, you stated you spoke to the West School, did you talk to the school district?
We spoke to the school district.
Thank you.
Yes, you bet. And I forwarded an email to staff.
Okay.
Where would you start? Hold on. Where would you start? If this went through, where would you start? With a commercial?
I think we would probably start all 3 phases simultaneously because it's 3 different products. We'd probably break each one into multiple smaller phases. The frontage is always the first one to get developed, but then it would just depend on how quickly the demand grows for each of those 3 uses.
I'm pretty sure we need a stoplight at 9th and what is it? Coolidge.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to, somebody's going to have to pay for that. I don't know. You can pay for all of it, but you probably could help out, couldn't you?
I'm sure we're on the hook for that, yes. We understand that we're going to have to contribute to that. The next level, when we create that traffic study, the city engineer basically tells us, this is what you're responsible for. And our client understands the value. Similar to, the other case, these are going to be our residents. We want them to be happy or they'll move out. So we cannot create a nightmare situation where they don't want to live here. So we have just as much incentive as the city does to make sure that everything is built, developed, and runs as smooth as possible.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions down here?
How about the parking? Are they going to be on the actual site, or how many parking spaces per site?
Sure. The south part I'll talk about first. It's developed in a more traditional sense. So our streets we have a 50-foot area set aside, so it can accommodate the standard city street section. But each unit has a 2-car garage. Each unit has a 2-car driveway. So obviously plenty of parking there. The more dense part is each home also has a 2-car garage, and then we have guest parking throughout the project. But the streets are 30 feet wide. So, we've designed them that way. If we get into the site plan process and we need to widen those to 36 feet wide to meet the city standard, we'll do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
You bet.
what would be your estimated build-out time? And I realize it's tied in with market and supply chain.
Yeah, I think we're looking at, starting construction in years from now. First phase, maybe a year and a half out, so probably 4 years for that first phase. And it just depends on how quickly they move from there. But the property owners have a lot of belief in the city and a lot of the industrial growth that's happening, the regional growth, the employees that want to live in a more urban area. They feel that Coolidge is that place, and that's why we're trying to get in place to provide that for them in the near term.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have anything else?
Mayor, we have one more speaker.
Okay,
Patrick Rice.
What's the last name?
Rice.
Rice?
Like steam.
Gotcha.
RICE.
good evening.
Hi, thank you for holding this and allowing me to speak. My main concern with everything are obviously this, I'll call her Resident X because I'm not going to mess with her name, are the roads and the businesses that are currently here and stuff like that, because I lived in Missouri before here, and they built a subdivision there, and it was standalone homes. And the residents did nothing but complain about the businesses around there, and it was a big courts and everything else was involved. So it doesn't matter to me what anybody says, you're going to have that problem. It's just going to happen. Can you go back to the other picture? Yeah. And this one here particularly concerns me because you can actually see my backyard right down here. And I don't care what anybody says, when you get apartments across from your home, your property value is going to go down. It's just the way it is. We already have trouble over here going up and down the streets, and my next door neighbor had his house shot up and everything else. So it's going to happen, and I don't care when you get to a certain amount of empty apartments, you're going to start renting to people that are kind of iffy. So it's just going to happen. So I'm against this one definitely, but the other one I'm worried about with the businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Okay, it's a public hearing. Anybody else?
Yes, Mayor, we have one more. Is it Duran Kelly? Okay, thank you. Kelly, K-E-L-L-E-Y. Duran, D-U-R-A-N.
Hi, I'm Durand Kelly. I stay at 731 West Coolidge.
Okay.
So, are you able to go back to the larger one? Yeah. So I'm kind of just representing the block of houses here at the upper corner. Yeah. So, a couple concerns. So, just kind of a question: Are you guys gonna build like a gate or a block wall to kind of separate us, or one of the other concerns was like dust control and things like that. A few things were kind of answered already. That and just access points also. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. But the wall would be nice.
Okay. Mayor and Council and Mr. Kelly. So yes, we will have a 6-foot solid wall where Phil is pointing out there. And then we're also having a landscape buffer in there as well. It's a minimum 20 feet there on the bottom side, which is the west, and it's 30 feet on the north side. That'll be landscape for you. Dust control, that's regulated by the county. We're subject to the county regulation. They put the sign up there and say call if there's an issue, but the contractors do their best to keep it down, but it is regulated by the state for that. And as last question regarding access, this is where we proposed our access, but again, this is not in stone. This can be changed. We have to prepare the traffic analysis, look at existing spacing of other driveways, see what's going on the other side of the street. So that is subject to change, but obviously we do intend to have a driveway onto Coolidge from that parcel. And we can talk afterwards too.
Anybody else? No? Okay.
Sorry.
Let's see anybody or hear anybody. Are you done, Gil? Yeah, are you finished?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. Then we'll move out of this public hearing and move into another public hearing. Item 10. See public comments on rezoning a certain parcel of land from agriculture to multifamily consisting of approximately 20.38 acres, more or less, located at the southeast corner West Coolidge Avenue and South 9th Street, Coolidge, Arizona.
Mayor Thompson, Vice Mayor Henry, council members, as we spoke about earlier, this is the other piece that is on Coolidge Avenue behind the commercial. And as you mentioned, it's 20 plus 20.38 acres. It's going from ag to R3, which is multi-housing, so it allows the uses there. There are higher uses, but R3 is probably the one that applies the best to this property. So that's what they're going to do. And of course, he already answered part of that portion. I don't know if you have other questions or if we have other comments. But this is specifically this part with the pool and some amenities. And also on the buffer, generally as we get to site plan, we'll look at how the window systems are into the houses. So I know a lot of times they do it where you don't overlook the second story on the residential. So that's part of the consideration, along with the buffer and the wall. If they're 2 stories, so they may reduce those to 1 story and then go 2 story on the rest. That could be a solution, yeah. Right, yeah, it's the one over here on the bottom, maybe that, he's on top, the windows will face north and south. Yeah, so these are the elevations of the units, so, yeah. Right. So it gives you an idea of the elevations of the product, so you can see that. And again, if you have questions or we have public comments, we can look at that. I know at P&Z, some of the citizens that were speaking liked the elevations, and so they...
Are those 30 or 35 feet, Gilbert?
Well, these are multifamily, so they'll be, they're townhome type products.
Height?
2-story.
2-story, but 26?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I have on this, Mayor.
All right. Nothing else up here? Nothing else down there? All right, then we'll move out of that public hearing and we'll move into another public hearing on item. Receive public comments on rezoning a certain parcel of land from agricultural to planned area development consisting of 42.43 acres, more or less, located at the southeast corner of West Coolidge Avenue and South 9th Street, Coolidge. Go ahead.
Mayor Thompson, Vice Mayor Henry, council members, as you can see, this is turned sideways again. Coolidge Avenue is up, would be the north, and this is the bottom half of that property along 9th. The city's retention basin between this property and Landmark is right there on the southern portion of the property. And I believe gentlemen expounded on some of the open space and some of the products, and these are separated units, so they'll be rental, but they're more like single family, housing. And these are the actual elevations that we've been provided for this, and it'll have to go through the site planning process at P&Z. So they'll look at all these products and look at the units. They have nice roofs, roof lines, a variety of models, so they look more traditional than other units. So that's all I have on this one, Mayor.
Okay.
Any questions?
It's a public hearing. Does anybody, Norma, do you have any? No
Mayor,
customers?
I just, I know that the previous speakers were wanting to speak reference 9, 10, and 11, but I think they covered, unless they have anything to add.
Nothing to add? That surprises me kind of, but that's good. Okay. All right, then, in that case, if there's any questions here? No? Then we'll move out of this public hearing. Okay, we'll move into business items for consent. Is there anybody up here that wants to pull any of these consent items off for individual consideration? No? Okay, here we go. Item 12. Consider approval of entering into a high-density drug trafficking area grant agreement between the City of Tucson and the City of Coolidge Police Department for continued participation in the Pinal County Drug Task Force Program, HT 232915. Item 13, consider approval of entering into a maintenance service agreement, an addendum between Coracero and the City of Coolidge Police Department for continued maintenance service of the Police Department Dispatch Center recording equipment for radio and phones for the Police Department. Item 14, consider approval of declaring certain non-used item, city-owned equipment and property as surplus, and authorizing staff to proceed with removal from city inventory of the same. That's it. If there's,
Mayor Thompson, I move to approve business consent items 12, 13, and 14 as read.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that carries. Thank you. Okay, we're moving to business under regular items. Item 15. Consider approval of entering into a fireworks display agreement between the City of Coolidge and either Lannis Fireworks or Lasers and Lasers or Fireworks Production of Arizona for the purpose of providing a fireworks display show at the 2023 annual 4th of July celebration to be held at Kenilworth Sports Complex.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll be brief. I know we've been here a while. The reason this is in front of you and not, normally this would be on consent agenda and we recommend a company and go from there. But the main reason is I want to make sure, because one of the companies is the company that kind of left us high and dry last year when they didn't have the product, and that would be the company that can provide it on the date of July 4th. So that's why I gave you two options. One, the company that could do it July 3rd, that evening, everyone's got the next day off, or the company that kind of, left us scrambling last year that can actually provide it on July 4th. Now, we've used both companies multiple times. We've never had a problem with either until last year when they didn't have product because of supply chain issues. So essentially, it doesn't make a difference to staff. We're working July 4th, whether at the pool and other things. So it's not, no one's angling to get July 4th off because we're all working anyway. It's just making sure council's comfortable moving forward with the company to do it on July 4th, or if they want to go with the company that sort of saved us last year, but do it the night.
Mr. Lopaglia, the non-mayor in me wants to do July 3rd, but
right.
But we heard so much, I don't know about the other guys up here, but I heard so much about it's not on the 4th of July last year,
But I just want to make sure you guys were comfortable given what happened last year with that company. Now, the show they've provided to us in the past have been great. They have supply this year, so it should be a non-issue. But I don't want to make that decision for you. I thought you guys should decide.
And that other company can't do it on 4th of July?
No, we're kind of low on their priority. They have other towns that they've been doing forever that have preference over us at this.
Yeah, I saw who one of them was, so let's just go with the other guys.
I agree with the mayor, man. I'd like to have it on the 3rd too, but we had so many people complain about it.
Right.
So,
I will say that last year, and I don't know if this is because we had it before 4th of July, was our biggest crowd, but it could just be there's a lot more people in town. There's no way of knowing.
4th of July is on the 4th of July. We can't have Christmas in July, so we might as well do the 4th of July when it happens.
Sometimes Christmas
Do we
feels
need
like
to vote
July.
on that? Yeah.
Mayor, if there's no further discussion, I make a motion we approve agenda item 15 as read.
Second.
Okay.
Well, you got to pick one.
You have an or.
You got to pick.
Oh, for the 4th of July, I'm sorry.
Okay. So Fireworks Productions of Arizona.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And there was a second down there, so. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Ordinance number 2301, an ordinance of the mayor and the city council of the city of Coolidge, Arizona, approving and adopting a major amendment to the Landmark Ranch Planned Area Development to rezone approximately 319.02 acres or less, generally located in an area bound by Martin Road to the north, Scout and Kenworthy Road to the east, within the City of Coolidge incorporated limits from the Landmark Ranch Planned Area Development Pad to the Hawk Hollow Planned Area Development, PAD, as described in Planning and Zoning 230101. The land is located in assessors parcel numbers 20930-0020 and 20930-0010, section 32 of Township 5 South Range East. Should that be 8 East, Gilbert? Never mind. All of the Gila and Salt River base in Meridian, Pinal County, Arizona. Go ahead.
Mayor Thompson, Vice Mayor Henry, council members, this is the item for Hawk Hollow that would be the ordinance that approves development. The Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing on March 8th, 2023, and recommended approval of the proposed project. So the only thing we would add, if you want to do that, we've talked to the applicant about covered parking, whether it's carports or garages, and they want to allow options for that. And so they propose like a third, and there'll probably be more than that, but that's what they propose. So it's up to you whether you want to say a third or more. Have to be covered parking attached. They'll have the spaces to them, but we don't have a requirement in the city overall to have covered parking on like infill, even though people put garages in and all that. It's part of the saleability. So anyway, we want to mention if you decide to approve this, we would ask you to add a stipulation that a certain number of these units have to have covered parking of some sort. And they're proposing a third. You can go higher if you'd like. It's up to you.
Well, I'm gonna make a statement. I don't know if Dennis is gonna jump on me or not, but I can tell you this. Since the legislature's been in session, I spent about a third of my time dealing with some of the individuals at the legislature that want to take planning and zoning away from cities. They want to change the law and make it to where cities and towns have no control over in their cities. They want to do the legislating from just let the builders build wherever they want, whatever they want, and put it wherever they want. And I think in part because of things just like this, but the cities will lose control eventually. They probably will. They've got the money and the push. I think they'll probably gain that. I don't know if it'll be this year, but they come back every year and more drop bills, and sooner or later one of them will get through. But that's where we're at now. And so when I hear the people out here speaking negatively about some of these projects, I don't know that there is a perfect project anywhere, but I do know that there could be a lot of worse projects in a lot of places. So I just want to say that now, and there were a lot of excellent points brought up by the members of this council. And I don't know if we want to discuss it further or get more information. I know the city manager mentioned how much to one of the council members' questions about impact fees and that type of thing. But I do think probably we need to take a closer look at the financial aspect of it before we make a decision. But that's just my opinion, and I'm just one vote up here. But I think they brought up a lot of good questions. But I would say that when people worry about infrastructure, there's not going to be 10,000 people move into that thing tomorrow. And we're not in terrible shape here. We have infrastructure here, and we're building roads every day. And we're doing all kinds of, a lot of those roads, the ADOT doesn't control, thank God. And we'll be able to go ahead and do what we need to do on those roads. But when you look at these kind of projects, you need to remember there could be one 10 times worse than that that'll be there in a couple of years if this one goes away. And in a couple of years, you won't be talking to us. Matter of fact, you won't be talking to anybody. Because if the state legislature has their way, the governor is vetoing some of these. The builders will just come in and build. If they want to build a 5-story building in any of these places right here, they'll just build it. And the city won't have anything to say about it. So when we look at these projects, you need to consider what's going to happen now and what could happen if we can make adjustments on some of these and maybe live with them. We still have a say in it. There's going to come a day when we're not going to have a say in it. They're going to come and they're going to push the cities and towns right out of it because that's what they're trying to do. So, and they have the money and we don't. So I'm just saying, I am concerned about some of the points that were brought up down here regarding the give and take of it. I mean, in any organization or any city, you don't want half your citizens paying for the other half the whole time. Everybody's got to pay their fair share. And so that's one of the things I'm concerned with, that I don't think we covered appropriately, which, I don't know that we do that. We don't do an economic, unless Elliot Pollock's involved or something, we don't get the economic thing of it usually.
No,
So,
Mayor, usually that's on commercial or industrial property, more the industrial, because we're
Yep.
subsidizing roads and other things.
industrial port and all that stuff, yeah. But I'm just saying, it got brought up here tonight. And anybody, with any sense is going to say, hey, wait a minute. Why would you put something in you're going to take a beating on down the road? We're already doing that in some other areas where we don't know if the assessor is even doing certain things that they need to be doing that we're receiving money on. So that's just, I can call for a motion and we can vote on it if they want to do that. But it'd be my preference to set it aside and do some research, hear what these concerns are, and if they want to continue or not. So I'll just leave it and see what you guys think.
I know about Plum Creek Resort. It's probably one of the nicest ones around. You look at that thing started about 20 years ago, maybe even further than that. They grew around cotton fields that were sprayed, and the cotton fields and crops and everything. And they grew as the town grew. Traffic on Florence Boulevard and now on Cottonwood Lane, they helped get that traffic in and out. You got Texas Roadhouse right there. They have people that come into that community and support that community. And I know because I have people that come over and support Coolidge. They support the local businesses there. They bring in tax revenue. I know the Gabby. I've known her. She was a friend of my daughter's. She lives here in Coolidge, was barely getting by until they took a chance on her and has promoted her up to a manager in that place. They are some place that gives back and is a part of the community. And from what I hear from the right-hand side of me and the left-hand side of me, I don't know if this thing would pass tonight or not. So, and listening to the mayor, I think that they would be a good partner for us. And there is some questions and concern about finances. And so I make a motion that we table this until we find out a little bit. So that's what I have to say.
Second it. Oh, you have
Okay.
something?
Yeah, the only other thing I want to add is, there's people sitting in this very audience that have come and complained to me, well, we don't have enough restaurants and we don't have this and we don't have that. The only way you get it is to get more people. They gear it off of population. So if you can't have it both ways. We're not Sedona. We don't have Oak Creek Canyon right next to us. They're not going to come down here to, like they go to Sedona. I'm just saying, the bottom line is the guys that make Chili's or Texas Roadhouse, they do it to make money. They'd rather go to Gilbert or Chandler because there's always population there and there's always people. Because those guys have told me that. Their business people have told me that. And so if you want these type of amenities in this community, then you're going to have probably some developments that you wouldn't be crazy to pick out yourself. And if you want to be able to compete, I can tell you right now, with no water, you're going to have to start to look at different developments. There's going to have to be different types of products. every other town's going to get these type of products. So people are going to go there because a lot of people cannot, we saw one tonight, afford a house in a subdivision such as maybe, I'm not going to name one of the ones here, but some of the subdivisions in Casa Grande. But, it's just too expensive. But you can't get a down payment. FHA loan, 3.5% on $400,000. What's that? $16,000, Dennis? You're a mathematical genius. I'm just saying that's the kind of way it goes. So, you throw in the closing costs on that, and you're looking at $21,000. So, I'm just saying it's just not gonna. There's a lot of things that play into this. So, but I do have some questions. These two brought up some very good points, but again, we've got a motion and a second.
Mr. Mayor, before you call for a vote,
Okay.
could I ask Councilmember Hudson to amend his motion? We'd just like to continue it to a certain, just so we don't have to re-advertise everything. So if you could amend your motion to continue tonight's hearing to May 8th, I think that gives us plenty of time to get the council the information they need.
Okay.
But then if we have a date certain, then we don't have to incur the expense of re-advertising everything.
So I make a motion that we table this to May 8th. Is that correct?
Continue it to May 8th.
Continue it to May 8th.
Continue it to May 8th. And then who seconds your motion, Mr. Hudson?
Vice Mayor Henry.
Would you accept that amendment? Okay.
Thank you.
Right, and Mr. Mayor, this is just a continuation of the action. The public hearing's been open and closed tonight, so this would just be the action on item 16.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And we still vote as an ordinance, right?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Can I argue with the clerk?
We're not,
You can do a roll call, it doesn't hurt.
just do a roll call?
Yeah, we're continuing item 16. Do you want to do that as just a roll call vote, or do you want to do
All
it?
in
Did you
favor?
continue it?
Yeah, if you're going to continue it, we don't need the roll
Okay,
call.
then we're not. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Item 17, ordinance number 23-02, an ordinance of the mayor and city council, city of Coolidge, Arizona, rezoning a certain parcel of land from agricultural to general business consisting of 7.1 or 41 acres, more or less, located southeast of the intersection of West Coolidge Avenue and South 9th Street, Edgewood Parcel 1, which is legally described in Exhibit A.
Mayor Thompson, Vice Mayor Henry, council members, this again is the commercial 2 portion of it that's shown outlined in red. I know the representative talked about this, and it'll still have to come before P&Z with the site plan. This is the ordinance that actually would rezone the property from ag to C2. I'll answer any questions you may have.
Gilbert, at what point in time would we approach these individuals about a stoplight there? Because we control all those roads.
We can do that when we do the site plan because of the traffic study. That's the time to do it.
Okay. All right.
Mayor Thompson, I, as far as that goes, I see that the applicant, they seem to be very willing to work with this as far as any traffic signals or crossing, crosswalks or something like that, because I know they have some of the crosswalks that they kind of, you press the button and then they start flashing on the ground and everything. So, I mean, and we definitely need to get more commercial in our community, and not put it all on Arizona Boulevard, because I think that's a huge. I mean, you and I'm sorry, you go into Casa Grande, and I mean everything is on Florence Boulevard. I mean everything just kind of gravitated that way. We've got to establish arterial streets out if they haven't already been established. We have to establish those, and we have to start trying to build out from there. And again, that's part of the problem with the previous project that was my problem with the previous project, is because I don't know if we have an establishment of arterial streets out in those particular areas, and whether or not they can go all the way through, and then we got to deal with ADOT any way we go, and we're kind of at their mercy. So I think this sounds like a great project. And I look forward to it moving forward.
Well, if there's no discussion, then maybe you want to make that motion.
I move to approve ordinance number Let me make sure I get this right. Ordinance number 23-01.
Oh, two.
Oh, two, ordinance, okay, 02, I'm sorry. Oh, that was the wrong one, wasn't it?
I was gonna see if
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Norma?
Councilmember Bagnell?
Yes.
Councilmember Saavedra?
Yes.
Councilmember Hudson?
yes.
Vice Mayor Henry?
Yes.
Councilmember Murrieta? Councilmember Daniels?
Yes.
And Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item 18, ordinance number 23-03, ordinance of the mayor and the city council of the city of Coolidge, Arizona, rezoning a certain parcel of land consisting of approximately 20.38 acres more or less, located at the southeast corner of Coolidge Avenue and South 9th Street. This is Edgewood Parcel 2 in Coolidge, Arizona, which is legally described in Exhibit A, which Gilbert has that. So you can read it if you want, Gilbert.
Mayor Thompson, Vice Mayor Henry, council members, yeah, this is going from ag to R3 multifamily. So you already talked about it, it's shown here. We work with them through the site plan, traffic study, all those things that'll come through that.
And they
Last
still have a
question we
lot of work to do to come, okay. All right. Are there any comments? Does anybody want to?
Yeah, well, Mr. Lopez, now, these are along 9th Street, those are all gonna be, two-story homes or two-story?
They can be, yes. They're proposed to be along the, and this is towards the front off of Coolidge Avenue back. But they're by the commercial and they go back. This is the
Right.
second portion of it. So you see the Wildermuth houses up there on the upper right.
Right.
And then the commercial here, so these will go back and they'll be two-story. More like a townhome type product.
Yeah, because I can sympathize with the gentleman that lives across 9th Street and saying that, since he's kind of in a sunken area and having, that kind of ruins your privacy and everything. So if there could be anything they could do to minimize the two-story in that area, I think that might be
We can do that during
a
the
good
site planning
idea,
process.
as well as the folks that live up
Around-
there along
yeah.
Coolidge Avenue.
Yes, we can do that.
Gilbert, is that commercial's not going to be two-story, is it?
Excuse me, Mayor?
Her view was ruined too. Is she looking at the two-story? or-
Well, the two stories are over there. This is all, anybody backing up to commercial that's commercial property. So there won't be any.
But the commercial's going to be single level too.
As,
Okay, that's
as far as
single
we
level.
know, that hasn't
So
been
he's-
established. But yeah,
okay.
they could, probably would be as far as they've shown us. They could be taller.
Well,
Where's that lady's house?
I don't know. I think it's going to be commercial.
And there'll be landscaping, trees and wall around the property. Standard.
Okay. Well, let's try to work with our existing citizens as much as we can.
Right.
Yes.
I don't think they need to be put out because of this, but like I say, I don't know what'll show up. Eventually, it could be a lot worse.
The site plan will have anybody within 300 feet can call that's impacted by this.
Okay.
They'll be notified.
Oh, maybe we should call them when the site plan comes in and at least let them know what.
Yeah, it'll be advertised and they'll get mailed directly to their house.
Okay.
Yes, it's required by law.
Gilbert, did you have any other negative comments besides the ones here?
No, we had some concerns at P&Z, but when people saw the elevations, they liked them. So I think Phil. Agree.
Oh, okay.
Phone-wise, we only had a couple of brief inquiries thinking that they were actually part of the project rather than being notified.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes people get a letter and they think it's about them, and they question, why are you coming out after my property? We say, we're not. This is just notifying you. But I believe the mayor was correct in saying that the legislature's been trying to really attack the city's processes, and I think having approved some, as a city's designated lobbyist, I can actually show and say, look, the city council approves some projects if they're good projects and they fit in the neighborhood. Not all do, but some do, and that's what the process is so important. And we can show we're not, and because single families really slowed down, so we're seeing the rentals starting to really pick up.
So will we put that in there to get with existing citizens, or?
No, they'll take care of it.
Okay.
Okay, so where are we at?
Well, Mayor, if there's no further discussion, growth is painful sometimes. We have a water park that's, beautiful water park that's pretty much in my backyard, and the lights are on all night long. But I put up with it for the good of the rest of the people that, you got to give and take, and I think this developer's going to do. I make a motion, we approve ordinance 2303 as read.
Second.
Councilmember Daniels?
Yes.
Councilmember Murrieta?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Henry?
Yes.
Councilmember Hudson?
Yes.
Councilmember Saavedra?
Yes.
Councilmember Bagnell?
Yes.
And Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 19, ordinance number 23-04. An ordinance of the mayor and the city council, the city of Coolidge, Arizona, rezoning a certain parcel of land from agriculture to planned area development consisting of approximately 42.43 acres, more or less, located south of the southeast intersection of West Coolidge Avenue and South 9th Street. This is Edgewood Parcel 3, which is legally described in Exhibit A.
Mayor Thompson, Vice Mayor Henry, council members, this is going from agricultural to PAD, so we can actually control, the actual type of buildings, the open space, everything else with the planned area development. And these are really nice elevations, and they look more like single-family homes. They're separated, and so this is the last of the items is ordinance 23-04. We'll answer any questions you have.
Anybody have any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, then I need a motion to act.
Mayor, if there's no further discussion, I make a motion, we approve ordinance 23-04.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second, Norma?
Councilmember Hudson?
Yes.
Councilmember Saavedra?
Yes.
Member Bagnell?
Yes.
Councilmember Daniels?
Yes.
Councilmember Murrieta?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Henry?
Yes.
And Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, go. Thanks, Phil. All right, yeah, report from Councilmember Bagnell. We'll start with you.
No, I've talked enough tonight, thank you.
Okay.
Good too.
I gotta save my air.
Well, yeah. She's running low. Tatiana?
I'm good.
All right.
Just briefly for your review again, the fourth report from the city manager to the council on some of the activity in our various departments. We have the Coolidge Police Department report that this is for February, so it's a little bit back, but that's just the way it works with their reporting. And then on the back, the little fold-out sheets, just some building permit data from the Development Services Department.
Good.
That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Well, I have something to report, but I'm not going to because I don't want Councilmember Hudson to pass out. So I need a motion to get out of here.
So moved.
Is there a second? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everybody, for coming.